So here's a pretty hilarious story. This says, Pete Buttigieg calls for deficit reduction, swiping at Bernie Sanders. So this is a funny debate to be had, which is about the deficit, okay? And it's really hilarious because under Donald Trump, the deficit is exploding. So if you don't know what the deficit is, I'll give you a quick explainer, right? It's basically the difference between the amount raised by the government and the amount spent. So a deficit means you spent more than you raised, and then the total debt is basically the combination of all the prior presidents. But the deficit is used because it's a yearly thing, right? And then over the presidency, you compound that number. And so basically, I think it was like Bush left with like a $1.4 trillion deficit, and then Obama in his final year brought it all the way down to, I think it was like 400 billion. So it was a pretty sharp drop in that. And I think even California has a surplus, which is pretty insane. Bill Clinton brought in a surplus. Don't think the last Republican to bring in a surplus was Eisenhower, I believe it was, and he was not even really a Republican, to be real with you. It says Buttigieg called on Democrats to get more serious about lowering the national debt, portraying himself as the biggest fiscal hawk in the presidential field, and taking a shot at chief New Hampshire rival Bernie Sanders for being too spendthrift. Asked at a town hall here how important the deficit is to him, Buttigieg said it's, quote, important and vowed to focus on limiting the debt even though it's, quote, not fashionable in progressive circles. I think the time has come for my party to get a lot more comfortable owning this issue because I see what's happening under this president. A $1 trillion deficit, and his allies in Congress do not care, so we have to do something about it. We figured out how to deliver healthcare to every American without a 20, 30, 40 trillion dollar price tag, or according to one of my competitors, and I don't know price tag. So I don't even know what he's talking about how he's going to deliver healthcare to every American. That's a total bullshit lie. He's not going to do that at all. In fact, he literally says it's the Medicare for All Who Want It plan, and then he's going to be charging them thousands of dollars. It's hilarious. There's a recent story on that I recommend you check out. And so obviously this line of him saying, I don't know. So they're taking Bernie Sanders out of context. Bernie's literally has released a plan. There have been multiple studies showing how much it's expected to cost. And so we all already know these numbers. If you don't understand the numbers, you're playing dumb, all right? I think it's something like it's going to cost like $32 trillion over the next 10 years. But the convenient fact that they leave out is that we're already expected to spend that much money as it is now. And so it saves money because when you switch to Medicare for All, there's a ton of savings involved. And so you're just shifting private spending, which is shit, by the way, over to public spending. It's called a single-payer healthcare system. You have one way to pay for it, one glob of money basically going. That's the most efficient way when you're talking about a commodity that you can't really negotiate for. Okay, you can't be like in the ER unconscious negotiating for the labor and services. You know, it's impossible to do. So that's what makes a commodity like healthcare so special and so unique. But so we're already expected to spend that much, and so actually we'd save $2 trillion over 10 years. Because the cost of stuff will just go down, okay? Because we'll have more control over this shit. These numbers don't even make sense in terms of how much this shit costs, all right? And so when we have more control over it, we get the price gougers out. We get the profit motive out, which is also crucial because these health insurance companies are profiting billions of dollars, all right? They're chilling good, with their golden parachutes, okay? So you have the loss of that profit motive as well. But the key change is administrative costs, okay? All the paperwork, all of the different paperwork that goes on with different procedures. Does this insurance plan cover this procedure? I recommend you check out Dr. Mike's video on this. He's a doctor, obviously, very popular sort of celebrity doctor, if you will, YouTube doctor, whatever. He's an actual doctor, but he's also basically a celebrity. And he explains how it's just crazy that all of this stuff, he doesn't know because I don't know what your insurance covers and all this nonsense. All of that, as well as advertising dollars, by the way. And so I believe that cost for like Social Security is like 2%, and for private insurance it's like 17 or something like that. So it's absolutely massive. Overhead is also huge, and so there's a ton of savings. And so what the studies show are, hey, look, under a Medicare for All system, we actually save money over 10 years in terms of our total spending. So we're just the reason why it looks big is because we're shifting private spending to public spending, which is what we need to do. It's the same fucking thing. It's just that we're making a more efficient system and we're making it cheaper. And so what Bernie said was like, dude, I don't know. I'm not a psychic. I don't know how healthcare costs are going to be, because the truth is nobody fucking knows. And so you have projections and you have studies, and he stated them ad nauseum. And so he's trying to be like, dude, I don't know. I just don't know. You know, it's like it's impossible to figure out how much healthcare is going to be. And it is impossible. You can't do that. And so you can have projections. He's talked about the projections. And so they're taking the guy out of context is what they're doing. They're taking him out of context. And so is Pete, soulless sociopath Buttigieg here. And now to talk about the deficit. Okay. So funny enough, all this stuff is not even going to raise the deficit, which is the funniest part. Like the Medicare for All plan is not going to raise the deficit because we're going to be saving money. And so you'll be shifting private to public. Also, there's even, this sort of ideology that exists of it's modern monetary theory, which is basically, my understanding is correct, with a fiat currency, if as long as it's like 10 to 15% of GDP and there are untapped resources, it really doesn't matter when the money is owed to yourself. And I kind of fall into that. I kind of agree with that kind of thing. But also, in addition to that, a lot of these plans, like free college education, it doesn't cost that much. Like what? It's like $40 to $60 billion a year, dude. That's a joke when it comes to federal spending. They've increased the military budget the past 3 years in a row by that much or more. Okay, some of them are 80, 70 billion. Okay, so a lot of these programs, it's not really like anything crazy. Okay, the healthcare one is big, but the other ones are not at all. When you talk about federal spending, so it's not even really going to raise the deficit all that much. But even if it did, it's like money owed to us, we have fiat currency, all this other stuff, right? And so then we have to talk about, is that even a winning issue? Okay, because Obama did this, nobody gave a shit. I think Rush Limbaugh even came out and said, oh yeah, we were just lying about that whole thing. So people who are like libs, right, who are like, oh no, bro, we got to do it to show it to the Republicans that we stand by it. Why, dude? These people are like non-stop like liars and shills. They're not going to stop. They're not going to support you because you actually did what they believed in. They're like stunning hypocrites. And so my belief is, fuck that shit, dude. That's not even like, the deficit is not even an important issue politically. Because they don't care what you do. They're going to vote for a Republican anyways. They don't care if you're the one who's lowering the deficit. It happened to Obama. Look what's going on now. How did that work out for you? Same thing happened under Bush with Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton brought in a surplus, for fuck's sake, dude. But all they cared about was that he was getting a blowjob in the White House. So that was it. So listen, man. It's a stupid idea politically. Our programs pay for themselves and they save us money. And, even if there is a deficit rise, big whoop. Big fucking whoop, man. Big whoop.